Hi Bobo. I don't expect you to accept this video reply, but please mate, watch it before you hit the delete key. It might give you a clue as to why you've pissed off every MRA who's watched one of your videos. This isn't a reply to your first video. See, that was a drunken, ignorant tirade. It was deeply insulting to the hard work of a lot of really good people, but hey, people act daft when they're pissed. No big deal. This is in reply to your second video. Stone cold sober, with plenty of time to reflect on what it is you said in the first one, and having had the opportunity to go out and actually carry out some research, you made a second video spouting all the same ignorant nonsense. Bobo, you look like a nice kid. You're well mannered. You look comfortably off. You probably see yourself as the reasonable person here. Would it surprise you to know that most bigots think along those lines? You see, the combination of willful ignorance and treating the group that you disagree with as being completely unreasonable, it's a form of othering. Or maybe just plain bigotry. There's a fine line there, and you don't seem to have any problems crossing it. You're an American atheist, Bobo. You should know how hard it is to argue against the faithful and a well-established dogma. And this is the problem that the men's rights movement faces in every sphere. Feminism shaped the public perception. On every issue, they distort the truth so much. It gets to the extent that it's very hard to make a case for any kind of men's rights without being marginalised, without the issue being trivialised, simply because it concerns men. This is why MRAs reacted to your videos, not the ad homs that you're throwing all over the place. Believe me, once you get used to being called a misogynist, other insults just bounce off. Now, you're not doing yourself any favours, fella. Pouring scorn onto people that are launching ad homs on you after you've already launched ad homs onto them doesn't really do your credibility much good. And nor does erecting all these Aunt Sallys that shape your perceptions of what the men's rights movement is all about. Bobo, the clue's in the name. Men's rights, you know? The clothes women wear, the sexuality of feminists, or whatever other nonsense that you came out with in your video are of no concern to the men's rights movement. Do you want me to spell it out for you? Inequality in the courts, reduced education opportunities for males, male genital mutilation, lack of support for male victims of domestic violence, vastly greater male homelessness, the sickeningly high male suicide rates, the complete absence of reproductive rights. And these are just a few of the MRM's concerns. It's kind of a busy organisation, fella. Much too busy to give much of a fuck about what women decide they want to wear. And maybe you're thinking of feminism. They seem to care a lot for that. You certainly didn't have any problem with trotting out some of their more popular straw men. You characterise the massive inequalities that we face as first world whining bullshit. You're trivialising issues that are ruining and even killing your fellow men, fella. Your notion that adding, well, not all MRAs are like that, somehow mitigates what it is that you've just said. It betrays your thought process. Clearly, men's rights don't concern you at all. Keeping perspective is precisely what you're failing to do, fella. It wasn't that long ago that men in your country couldn't vote. The difference being that men were required by law to lay down their lives for a country that they had no say in the running of. Before you start thinking up some trite one-liner for this, do a little bit of research. This isn't exactly news, Bobo. And while we're on the subject, do you care to tell me how many of the American casualties in the Vietnam War were actually of voting age? The men who died defending your liberty didn't have a vote. This happened in my lifetime. Try something from your generation. How many women today are required to volunteer for selective service, and what are the impacts on them if they decide not to? The history of emancipation is a fascinating topic, Bobo. Maybe you should read into it a little, eh? I got another question for you. Have you ever actually visited the Middle East? Or have you studied its culture, its politics, its history, the religions that are common there? You see, you talk with great authority about the place, but perhaps you could enlighten me a little bit. You know, tell me about how great the men over there have actually got it. Human rights issues are very real and in turmoil all over the world. You want to ignore half the people on the planet just because they're male? You know, the way you did with, well, people being murdered, males being murdered for accused of being witchcraft, females being murdered for being accused of witchcraft. It's happened in the past, I'm not sure about today. You certainly ignored male victims of human trafficking. You brushed over male rape victims. Human rights are important, Bobo, but let's just not disregard half the population because they've got the wrong genitalia. Regardless, anyway, of your gynocentric view of world politics, the fact that bad shit's happening somewhere doesn't make it alright to marginalise, to trivialise and to disregard the bad shit that's happening on your own doorstep. The glass ceiling that you believe exists, if it exists, necessarily creates a glass basement. Now, for what it's worth, most MRAs can give a fat rat's arse about who gets to run the major corporations. They can be all female. What MRAs care about is men being almost exclusively employed doing the dirtiest and the most dangerous jobs that are around. The wage gap that you talked about is a myth, fella. Women that are prepared to take on longer journeys, longer commutes, they're prepared to put in the longer hours, and women that are prepared to do the dirtier, more dangerous employment options will earn exactly what a man does. But the double blow that you're delivering by reiterating this feminist lie is that men don't have the same degree of choice when it comes to work. These supposedly oppressed, underpaid women have the choice of whether they want to work, whether they want to work more flexible hours, or whether they want to stay at home. Men have got the choice of working or working. See, the thing is, you don't get male homemakers and you don't get house husbands. What you get is deadbeat dads. What you get is long-term unemployed men. You're going to have to forgive the application of Hitchens' razor there, but you made a groundless generalisation, and it doesn't deserve anything better than a groundless generalisation back. Males lack reproductive rights, Bobo. Whoever they are that unsuccessfully, apparently, attempted to acquire an ultrasound, whatever that is, makes absolutely no difference to the fact that males have no reproductive rights. That includes minors having to help financially support the women who raped them. But hey, women experience a ridiculous level of discrimination, right? You conflated rape with political representation, Bobo. I mean, that's a really neat trick. Nicely done. Haven't even seen feminists manage that one. But the problem is, arsehole politicians are saying objectionable things all the time. It's the laws that they pass that impact on our lives. And significantly, since we're talking about rape, most forms of rape of the male aren't recognised in law. Draw your own conclusions. Now, as for the number of women that are in Congress, well, go out and ask the voters, the majority of whom are female. If they voted for women, you'd have women in Congress and you'd have a female president. Here in the UK, Margaret Thatcher was voted in on a male majority. Now, our voting demographic has changed since then, and the result is we're unlikely to see another Prime Minister for the foreseeable future. British women seem to prefer strong, authoritative males that are willing to consider women's rights issues. Voting patterns are another fascinating subject, and you might want to consider looking into that too, mate. But none of that has got jack to do with men's rights and the MRM. You could have an all-female or even an all-male Congress. Men would still be under the same conditions. They would still face the same inequalities and persecution. So please, just put that Aunt Sally away, son. And you can put the men never get custody straw man into the same box. The vast majority of family courts cases favour the women. Of course men sometimes get custody, nobody's saying they don't. But for the system to be observed to be working fairly, there would have to be an approximately equal parity between male and female outcomes. That clearly isn't the case. It's not the case in Canada, the US, the UK, anywhere in the Western world. Men being awarded custody are the exception, not the rule. Your claim that MRAs are over-representing the issues like they happen every day. Newsflash, kidda, they do happen every day. You go spend a day in family court sometime, see how many men are actually awarded custody, and find out the reasons why they're awarded that custody. Let us know how you get on. You say I'm really struggling to see what you say you would consider a legitimate men's rights issue. You've trivialised every one that you've spoken about. And your idea of perspective is to claim that human rights issues in a Sharia Islamic absolute monarchy have a bearing on men's rights in the USA. See, I'm beginning to suspect that that's why you have problems when you meet anybody who knows anything about men's rights issues, either online or in real life. You start off by telling them that MRAs are sexist, traditionalist extremists. And these are three things that the vast majority of MRAs are massively opposed to. Then you trivialise every issue they talk about as first world whining bullshit. It's a great way to establish a meaningful dialogue, fella. You spend more time knocking down your own Aunt Sally's than you do considering points which you grudgingly admit are valid. And at the same time you're characterising most MRAs in the darkest light possible. Now, if you are well versed in the issues that you're disregarding so flippantly, or if you gave the impression of actually knowing anything about the foreign countries that you're so comfortably running down, you'd get on a whole lot better, fella. But you're saying in effect that women have it worse than men somewhere you haven't got a clue about. It simply destroys your credibility. For instance, you claimed that Malala Yousafzai was shot in Afghanistan for trying to get an education. That is an epic fail, fella. She's a Pakistani citizen. Now, she lives in the UK for fairly obvious reasons now. She was the victim of a terrorist attack. The irony of you using her situation probably missed you, so I'll spell it out for you. Pakistan has a well-educated female population. They had the world's first Muslim woman Prime Minister. Look up Benazir Bhutto. Malala was shot en route to school in Pakistan. Pakistan, not Afghanistan. She was shot by terrorists who'd learned about her political activism. Bobo, they shot her for promoting secularism. Read up on her. She's an amazing girl. Now, if she decides to stay in the UK, I'm sure she's going to make a great contribution to our culture. Although, chances are she'll end up becoming a feminist. Still, talking of feminists, do some research before you start on them, fella. Because when they label you a filthy, rape-apologising misogynist, you're going to feel a whole lot better knowing that they're saying something at you because you've hit a nerve, not because you made up some sexist shite just so as you can knock it down again. I'm actually looking forward to that video, kid. Laters, eh?